Welcome back everybody to another discussions video. Now, as you can probably tell, today's video is going to be all about our boy Golden Freddy. Now, today's video is going to be a bit of me talking about my theories and ideas that I have for Golden Freddy, and also going over other theories and ideas about Golden Freddy, and kind of doing some pros and cons, so like pieces of evidence and theories that I think are pretty solid and that work pretty well, but also evidence and theories that I think weren't entirely thought through or people kind of jumped to conclusions with. So that's kind of just going to be it, hence the name The Problem with Golden Freddy, because there's not that much info about Golden Freddy, so it's kind of hard to make theories and stuff like that. But still, I thought it would be good to kind of go over and cover all this stuff, and I feel like a sort of like a rite of passage as a FNAF YouTuber to eventually make a Golden Freddy theory video, so you kind of have to. But yeah, anyway, before we actually get into the video, I just want to ask you guys to go down and leave a like on the video, and while you're down there, I'd really appreciate it if you guys would subscribe, because I don't know, it would just mean the world to me if you guys did that. So but I'm not gonna push it too much, so there's that. But yeah, anyway, let's just jump right on into the video. I'm not going to waste any more time on this intro, because I just want to get right into it and start talking about Golden Freddy. So I just want to start off with a couple of smaller Golden Freddy theory idea things before we get into essentially what is the main part of the video. I mean, technically it all is, but you know what I'm saying. So what I want to start off with is the Golden Freddy Fredbear equivalent theory thingy, whatever. Golden Freddy is Fredbear. I mean, there's not really any other way to put it. They're the same character. I know they have different colored hats and bow ties, but they're the same character, and it's pretty much assumed by everybody, but I know there are still some people out there that are like, well, they're technically different characters, because if you measure the size of Fredbear's head that we see in Ultimate Custom Night, it's slightly different than Golden Freddy, and therefore they are different characters. And they put a whole lot of like analysis into what is essentially a blurry PNG flashing on screen, and I'm like, I mean, okay, but counterpoint, Golden Freddy looks different between FNAF 1 and FNAF 2. All the characters look different between the first two games, so it might be a little thing called character redesign. And I also stand by this because we see Fredbear's Family Diner, the stage, in FNAF 3 in one of the mini games that you need for the good ending, because you play as Fredbear. We actually play as Fredbear, and he's got the black bow tie and the black top hat, and he's on stage with Spring Bonnie in the exact same position that they are in FNAF 4. So clearly they're supposed to be the same character, and I really don't think there's any room for argument that they're not supposed to be the same character. And I think we'll get solid confirmation of that in Secret of the Mimic. At least I'm hoping we do. I'm hoping we see some Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. I'd love to see some Fredbear and Spring Bonnie in Secret of the Mimic, but I'm hoping that gives some clarity to that, because I know it's not that common for people to think that they're different characters. That was more of an older idea, but I still hear it floating around there sometimes, so I just thought it'd be worth bringing up in a video all about Golden Freddy, and they are supposed to be the same character. I can't see why they wouldn't be. So just another small topic that I wanted to cover, because I thought it was at least somewhat relevant to this video, is Golden Freddy in the Princess Quest games. Now, there's not a whole lot of evidence for that, except for like the character, the princess used to be called Cassidy before the files were renamed, and then there's like a couple other things. There's not a whole lot of evidence to support Golden Freddy being in Princess Quest, but I still think it makes sense in some way, because we don't really know where Golden Freddy went after Pizza Sim. I mean, I guess technically after Ultimate Custom Night is what I meant to say, but after William supposedly, I guess, dies, because he dies. So William is dead, and Golden Freddy is just kind of there, but the Mimic and the Mimic 01 program still exists. So like Glitch Trap and the actual physical Mimic still exist. And so in some way, you would think Golden Freddy would still be kicking around to try to stop these mimics of William. Well, you know what I mean. Like to stop Glitch Trap, who is mimicking William. You would think Golden Freddy would be there, but we don't really see anything of that. But I like to think Golden Freddy is still kicking around, since I don't really know where else they'd go. Because we see at the end of Ultimate Custom Night, they're glitching into the void, which is one of my favorite cutscenes in all of FNAF. But they're still alive. They just are gone. So I'd be interested to see where they take Golden Freddy, if they want to do anything with the character. I mean, Scott and Steel Bull could just say, yeah, we don't have any plans for this character, so we're not going to do anything. But I'd like to see them show up again at some point, because I just want some closure on that. We don't really see anything after Ultimate Custom Night, and I feel like that's a bit of a letdown, because they're such a unique and interesting character that we know almost nothing about. So it would be good to get some more info on them, but we don't really have anything. So now we're gonna start kind of moving into like the theories and sort of like me talking about the bigger theories for Golden Freddy and evidence for and against it. Mostly conflicting evidence, because I called it the problem with Golden Freddy. So there's gonna be a lot of conflicting evidence, but I think we'll kind of talk about both. But the small piece that I want to start with is the "It's me," which is the most iconic line for Golden Freddy. Like, they go hand in hand. They're the ultimate duo. Golden Freddy and It's Me, they're the unbreakable duo. And for the longest time, the idea is that the "It's Me" is referring to Crying Child, and that they're the ones saying, "It's me. I'm your brother," like, because they're talking to Mike. So it's like, "Oh, I'm your brother. It's me, Mike. You remember me?" And I think it does work that way. But I've also thought that it could be the other way, and that it's the vengeful spirit saying, "It's me, the one you shouldn't have killed," because we know that the animatronics tend to attack the night guards because they think we're William. Now, I know in FNAF 1 it's implied that they think we're an endoskeleton and they want to put us in a suit, but we kind of know that in like FNAF 2 that some, like the Withers and stuff, they attack us because they think we are William. We look like that. We look like William, so they think we are William. And the same thing comes up in Sister Location too. So it's kind of shown time and time again that these animatronics and the spirits inside these animatronics think that these night guards look like William, and so they think he is William. So to me, it almost makes more sense that Golden Freddy would show up and say, "It's me," as in like, "William, do you remember me? It's me, the one that you shouldn't have killed," because that pops up so much in Ultimate Custom Night, and I think that'd be like a bit more of an interesting take on it, rather than just like, oh, the one comparison to Crying Child being in Golden Freddy is that it just says "it's me," and there's not really like a whole lot of context to that. So I think it can work both ways, of it's the Crying Child saying "it's me, it's your brother," but I also think it could work in "it's me, the one you shouldn't have killed," because if they think he's William, then that's what they're gonna say. So just a thing I wanted to bring up, because it was something that I had kind of been thinking about for a while, so it's fitting to this video, so I thought I'd just bring it up. Alright, so the next, I guess, thing I want to talk about is we're starting to talk about the dual Golden Freddy theory, not the dual process theory, but like the two spirits in Golden Freddy theory, and sort of stuff that can support it and stuff that I think maybe needs a second look for evidence. And the big thing is the Stitch Wraith. That's the big piece of evidence I kind of want to talk about, because that's sort of the magnum opus of, we have our Golden Freddy evidence. There's two spirits in an animatronic. This proves everything. This shows us what we need. Like, this is what we've been waiting for. Evidence to show that there can be two spirits in Golden Freddy. And on the one hand, I do think part of it makes sense, right? Andrew, who is one of the spirits inside the Stitch Wraith, is an equivalent to Cassidy in like the books, right? So Andrew's in the books, he's the vengeful spirit that's tormenting William, and then eventually ends up in the Stitch Wraith. And in the games, Cassidy is the one that is tormenting William, but is also part of Golden Freddy. All right, that makes sense to me, and I think that tracks relatively logically. I'll get to why it doesn't in a minute, but I think for the most part that can make sense. And the other one is that I think, what is it? Is it Jake? I think Jake's the other spirit, and he dies in the hospital, kind of just on his own, and ends up in the Stitch Wraith as well. And he doesn't really have any reason being there. He just ends up there. I think part of it is like from one of his toys or something like that. It's all complicated. I haven't read the books and all that much, so I don't really know anything. But as far as I know, Jake ends up in there, and so now there's two spirits in the Stitch Wraith. And so people are like, well, the equivalent could be the crying child in the games who dies in the hospital, and it could end up in Golden Freddy. And that's why there's the two spirits in Golden Freddy, and that's sort of like the big piece of evidence to support that. Now I know like stuff like the logbook and the survival logbook and stuff have some more evidence, and I'll talk about that in a minute too. But the thing with the Stitch Wraith is I like the comparisons, I like the idea, but what I kind of got hung up on, because while I was researching this, it kind of like I kind of noticed this, is that the Stitch Wraith stories take place after Pizza Sim and after Ultimate Custom Night, since we know that Andrew doesn't end up in the Stitch Wraith until after he's separated from William, because he kind of, I don't know the exact line, but he's like, I don't really remember much, because like they're talking about their memories, and he's like, I don't remember much, but I remember that I was getting back at the person who killed me, and like I was preventing him from dying, and like I was tormenting him and stuff like that. Like obviously not word for word, but he says something along those lines, and then he's like, but then I ended up here. And so clearly, story-wise, Andrew was tormenting William, and then William dies in the room, the man in room whatever book. William dies, and now Andrew is part of the Stitch Wraith. So that all logically tracks on its own, but to me, that doesn't really track timeline-wise if you try to translate it over to the games, because it doesn't have to be like one-for-one timeline translation, books to games, whatever. But the idea of going, okay, this is our Golden Freddy evidence. Everything that takes place after the last time we saw Golden Freddy. Like, we haven't seen Golden Freddy since Ultimate Custom Night, and the Stitch Wraith takes place after that. So why would it be showing us what Golden Freddy's like if we're supposed to assume that Golden Freddy is kind of gone, right? Here, I'll try to explain it a little bit better. I know that was a little bit rambly, but the fact that we're going, oh, there's two spirits and one animatronic must mean that it's Golden Freddy. But that would also then imply Golden Freddy got created after William died, which doesn't make any sense. So I just think timeline-wise, it's hard to use the Stitch Wraith as evidence because it doesn't track with the games. And like I said, I know that it's not a one-for-one, but I think that's a bit that got overlooked is, well, two spirits and one animatronic is what we've been looking for. But we didn't include everything. And when I say we, I mean like FNAF theorists. Like, we didn't include all the details that came with that bit of evidence, which is this takes place after William dies, so after Ultimate Custom Night, which, and to be fair, it has almost nothing to do with a bear animatronic, which I know would be a bit too close, but we know Golden Freddy existed in these books before because he showed up in a couple of them. So it would just be weird to be like, all right, here's going to be the parallel to Golden Freddy in the books, even though Golden Freddy already exists in the books. But then the two spirits show up after. I just think it doesn't track logically. So if we were to take that same idea and put it into the games, we would go, okay, Golden Freddy exists in all the games up into Ultimate Custom Night. And then they get transferred into another animatronic, and they just so happen to have another kid join them in said animatronic after Ultimate Custom. But Golden Freddy still existed before that, but now they exist again after that. It just doesn't really track with me on how we can use that as like solid proof that Golden Freddy has two spirits inside them, when it doesn't really seem like that's what the book is trying to say. I don't know. It's, on the one hand it makes sense, on the other hand it doesn't. And this is the ultimate problem with Golden Freddy, is no matter what you do, something isn't going to line up. You can use one bit of evidence to say, all right, well, here's evidence to show that Golden Freddy is like this, and then, oh, but what about this evidence that shows that he's not like that? And so that's the hard part. There's just always a problem with this character, but I think the issue is that we kind of just jumped to conclusions and didn't take into account all of the evidence that went with it, if that makes sense. I'll eventually maybe do like a clarifying section at the end of this video to smooth things over, because these are always like rambly videos, but I'll like clarify stuff at the end. But yeah, so I just think the Stitch Wraith evidence on the one hand can work, but on the other hand doesn't track timeline wise in terms of when two spirits would be inside Golden Freddy. Alright, so one thing I want to talk about before we get into the security logbook is it's kind of built off of the last one, but more so talking about the crying child himself and whether or not he's actually in Golden Freddy, because the theory is that the crying child got chomped by Fredbear / Golden Freddy, and then when he dies, he ends up somehow inhabiting the Fredbear suit. And I know, like, the thing is like, oh, well, I always just assumed Crying Child went into the Golden Freddy suit after he got chomped, right? Like, that's what I hear a lot of people say, is like, well, in FNAF 4, we see him get chomped in the bite of 83, and so it's just kind of assumed that he goes into the Golden Freddy suit. He goes into Fredbear. But I never really thought that, because we clearly hear that he goes to a hospital, and he's there for at least a little bit of time, and then he dies, because we hear the hospital flatline, and we know that he dies in the hospital. So to me, we've never really seen evidence of that long distance inhabitation of a animatronic, because I'm pretty sure at the Stitch Wraith, the reason that Jake and Andrew are in there is because parts of stuff they were close to got put into the Stitch Wraith. So they possessed certain elements of these toys that got put into the Stitch Wraith, which is then why they possess the actual Stitch Wraith. So the idea then that somehow Crying Child in the hospital, which is most likely a reasonable distance away from the Fredbear's location, dies and doesn't inhabit Fredbear, or like, and then he dies at the hospital and then goes on to inhabit Fredbear, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It makes sense that he would die in the hospital and then not possess Fredbear. If anything, he should have possessed Psychic Friend Fredbear, the little Fredbear plush that he has sitting next to him in this hospital room that we see William talk through, or presumably William talk through at the end of FNAF 4. It would make more sense for Crying Child to go on and possess that than it would for him to somehow end up in the Golden Freddy suit. And I know that dual process theory explains this away by William being even more psychotic and taking his son and stuffing him into the Golden Freddy suit. But I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense, seeing as we hear the hospital flatline. So that's something I've always had an issue with, is the whole basis of the two spirits in Golden Freddy idea is built off the fact that the theorist community assumes Crying Child is possessing Golden Freddy, when there's not really any solid evidence for that. there, like I said in this previously, there is some evidence, and we'll get into more with the survival logbook, but there's not really solid evidence of Crying Child being the one to be a second spirit in Golden Freddy. So it's just another thing that I thought is pretty fitting for this video. It's not specifically Golden Freddy related, but it is pretty much. But it's just something that I've also thought about, is like, I've never really assumed Crying Child is a spirit inside of Golden Freddy. It just never made a whole lot of sense to me on how he would get chomped, go to the hospital, die in the hospital, and then go back to the suit. Like, because the only time I've seen possession happen is like the body has to be there next to the animatronic or stuff inside the animatronic, but it has to be close. Like with the puppet, Charlotte wasn't stuffed into the puppet, but the puppet was so close to her that she possesses the puppet. And so there is some sense of physical contact needed for possession. So it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that it would be Fredbear and not psychic friend Fredbear, who would be much closer to Crying Child in the hospital. But yeah, I just thought this was something that would be good to bring up and very fitting for this video. But next we'll talk about the survival logbook. So to kind of wrap things up here, I'm gonna end off with talking about the survival logbook and how that evidence both supports and might not support the two spirits inside Golden Freddy, because that's sort of like the main thing I wanted to talk about with this video. And so I thought I'd bring up at least a couple different pieces of evidence in the support of, or the evidence that's used in the support of two spirits. So I know in the survival logbook you have at least 3 different people talking. You have Mike, who writes in the red ink. You have faded text, which is presumed to be Cassidy, and then you have some of the actual like text, like the typed out text in the book gets altered, and that's assuming to be Crying Child. But I know in dual process theory, they were like, well, it doesn't have to be Cassidy that's the one being the faded text, because they said in their video that the puppet is the one writing in the faded text, I'm pretty sure, and then Cassidy, aka Crying Child, in their theory, is the one that's using the altered text. So that kind of stays the same, but their idea is that it's actually the puppet writing through the faded text and not Cassidy. And so I think that that also does show that, on the one hand, yes, it can make sense that this faded text is Cassidy and the altered text is the Crying Child, but there's nothing that really confirms that. So it's like, on the one hand, we can use that for supporting evidence, but on the other hand, it's kind of like we have to take and give, because there's nothing that actually really confirms all of that. So again, as the title of the video says, this is thus the problem with Golden Freddy, is there's just nothing that really sticks. There's no bit of evidence that we can use that really 100% confirms anything. Like, we can do that with other characters, right? The spirits inside of the original 4 animatronics, right? We can confirm that, but there's almost nothing that is like solid for Golden Freddy. And it's like, there's just nothing that we can confirm, but we try our best to come up with the best theories for Golden Freddy. But like I said in my video that I made a couple months ago, which was talking about the problem with theories, I think sometimes we can jump to conclusions and take some details too seriously and not take other details seriously. And so we skip over some details just to get what we want right. And I think we need to kind of stop, take a step back, and maybe just like do a complete reset on Golden Freddy. I guess that's sort of the moral of this video. We just need to do a reset on Golden Freddy, take everything we know, every little bit of evidence that can be supported for Golden Freddy, and just put it in a big pile, put it in a room, put it on like a big poster board, and go through and be like, all right, what conflicts with each other, what can we confirm is Golden Freddy lore, what can we confirm is not Golden Freddy lore, what's sort of like gray area, and just kind of do a hard reset. Because I think what the issue is that we've just had so many different theories for Golden Freddy that we don't even know what's the right one and like what is the current one, and there's just a whole lot of issues with it. So I think it's just a very difficult situation with this character, and thus the problem. So I guess to summarize this little section, the logbook on the one hand I think does support the possibility of there being two spirits in Golden Freddy, but you can't really confirm that per se, because there's nothing to solidly confirm that at all, and that's just the big issue with it. So to kind of summarize everything in a nice neat little bow, I'll just go through and do a quick summary of, I guess, every point that I made. So Golden Freddy is Fredbear. There's not really any evidence that can contradict that. There's only evidence that supports that. So Golden Freddy equals Fredbear, correct. Golden Freddy doesn't really have any appearance outside or like past Ultimate Custom Night. I wish that they would show up more in these new games, but we don't see them all that much. But there are a little bit, like there's a little bit of detail or some small details that might hint at Golden Freddy still kicking around, like the Pizzaplex and trying to stop Glitchtrap, because Glitchtrap's kind of like William. So there's small hints that that's what they're doing, but not a whole lot of evidence to support that. The It's Me part, it can be Crying Child saying, hey, I'm your brother. It could be Cassidy saying, hey, I'm the vengeful spirit. I think it can go both ways. I know we kind of think it's the Crying Child, but I think that one can be a fun one that can go both ways, but it's not something that's like super serious. The Stitch Wraith, that one was a bit more complex, but I think on the one hand, the idea of showing an animatronic that has two spirits in it could lend itself to supporting Golden Freddy having two spirits in them. But on the other hand, I think we kind of ignored the big fact that the Stitch Wraith literally has nothing to do with Golden Freddy, and that the Stitch Wraith takes place after Ultimate Custom Night, which was the last time we saw Golden Freddy. So on the one hand, we have our Cassidy parallel inside of the Stitch Wraith, but on the other hand, that's the only bit of evidence that we have that this could be a Golden Freddy parallel, so not very solid there. To, I guess, summarize my thoughts on Crying Child being the second spirit, I think there's a slim chance that he could be a second spirit inside of Golden Freddy, but I think it's very unlikely, seeing as there is a lot of evidence that also points to him not being in Golden Freddy, seeing as the very big piece of evidence is that he dies most likely miles away from Golden Freddy, so not really within the range of being able to go on and possess a suit, being so far away. So that kind of is a big piece of evidence to say that he's not inside Golden Freddy. So that's just sort of the summary for this section. And to summarize this last section, the survival logbook, I feel like it's kind of not the same, but in a similar idea to the Stitch Wraith of it shows two spirits talking to each other, but it doesn't really confirm who the two are. We know one of them is named Cassidy, but we don't really know which one that is and who the other spirit is, and there's nothing to really confirm any of that. So it's like we know a little bit, but we don't know a lot. So it's a little trickier with these, but yeah. So that's kind of the summary of all my previous points, just so that you guys can get a better understanding of what I was trying to say, since I am notorious for just rambling on and probably sounding like nonsense. So I'm hoping that this summary was a nice neat little bow for you guys, but yeah, that is going to be it for our Golden Freddy video. Again, kind of like I said at the start, it feels like a rite of passage as somebody who makes FNAF videos and somebody that makes like FNAF theory / like discussion videos. It just feels like a rite of passage that eventually you have to make a Golden Freddy video. So I feel like I've finally closed that chapter, and I can say that I am kind of partially a FNAF theory person, but also not really. But it's the rite of passage. You got to make a Golden Freddy video. You can't not make a Golden Freddy video. So you got to use that. There are 3 PNG pictures that they have on the thumbnail at some point. But yeah, so that is going to be it for this video. I had a ton of fun with this one. It was fun to research this character because there's not a whole lot to really research. There's not a whole lot out there, and it was fun to kind of go back and discover new things that I never really thought about for this character. So, but that's really the whole point of these videos, is to get people talking and for me to kind of learn some more stuff about FNAF. But yeah, that is going to be it for, I've said that like 10 times, but for the final time, that is going to be it. So probably up now, I'll put it up when this video goes live, but the poll for my next topic will be up on my community tab. So if you guys want to go check that out and vote on what you want to see me cover next, there will be probably a theory. I'm not sure about who yet, but there'll be a theory up there. You guys can pick if you want to do a FNAF game review, or we'll put FNAF VHS series review back up there, because it's been a couple weeks since we've done that. So yeah, if any of those sound interesting, go check out that poll and go vote on what you want to see. But yeah, with that, we'll do shameless plugs. So go check them out. My Instagram is linked down below, so go check that out if you want to. My channel membership is down there as well, so if that's something you're interested in, check that out. Otherwise, no big deal. But speaking of channel membership, shout out to my channel member. Thank you for being a channel member, and here's your video shout out. I do shout outs for my channel members in every video, so if that's something you want to have, along with the other perks, become a channel member. Otherwise, I don't really mind. It's up to you. But yeah, if you guys have anything you want to say, any other topics for discussion videos, or other games that you want me to check out, leave a comment down below, because I'll check them out and I'll respond, and I'm interested in what you guys want to see. So let me know. Otherwise, no big deal. And yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion video. But yeah, what should I have you guys comment? I guess comment Golden Freddy. Duh, that makes a lot of sense. Comment Golden Freddy if you made it this far in the video. And yeah, with that, I will see you in tonight's live stream. Goodbye.